a moment, a season in my life. I put you in my plans. I did what I thought was right. I worked so hard just to watch it die. Sometimes you have to leave some things behind.
Hey, it's Blastzone Mike, and welcome to Blastzone Mike's Fire Rock TV show. And I have a great individual with me. His name is Ira Black. And I say great because this guy, I'm going to start out this way with this, gives guitars to kids. And I didn't know that till I was like, and I don't research people a lot, okay? But for some reason, it told me to go and look at your Facebook. And I seen that you gave out, what, 4 guitars now or more?
No, I got a list up here. Let's see, where am I at? I'm somewhere around 10, and I have a few more to go right now that are already on the list. So, yeah.
How'd that come out about for you to do that for kids, man? That's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been giving the guitars away for a long time to people. I mean, I've given guitars away right off the stage before to people. I've held
Wow.
auctions over the years. I've done some giveaways off my Facebook page and stuff like that. And I figured last December around Christmas time, I was like, well, let me just make a platform to actually do this, instead of just
Mhm.
doing it randomly. Then I can kind of control it that way, give it a name, and have a way to promote it, and really start getting into that. So it just kind of pushed me into really making it an actual thing. It has a name, a platform, and previously it was just I gave guitars to anybody. But I thought, you know what, kids can really use something like this to get through their life. It certainly helped me when I was a kid. I got a guitar when I was 10, and I always say, it saved my life, which it did. And look, it gave me a life. I got to tour and travel and do all this really cool stuff with it. But I also, in the back of my mind, it's also to help keep music alive, because that's the other thing with technology nowadays. You have all this AI coming out and all this stuff, and people can just make songs without even having an instrument. And
Hmm.
a side note, I think that's cool. I've embraced AI, but I don't want it to kill the human creative spirit either. It's like picking up a piece of wood with some metal strings on it and figuring out, and there's some great mathematics behind music too, so it's not just, oh, guitar. It's like, there's actually a metaphysical and a mathematical algorithms built into the way music works. So, we can't hide that information or forget, that
Yeah.
exists out there. So I like, keeping that alive out there too.
I uh I like AI in this sense, like actually he was just here yesterday. Or not here, but in Ashland. I didn't get to go, but Randy Travis was there. And the guy who did the vocals on the new Randy Travis album was with him, and he used AI to put out a new Randy Travis album because he can't because he had a stroke. And I
Oh,
think that's
wow.
a brilliant thing, man. I've always said that I see in the future John Wayne movies and all these people coming back because they used AI in like Star Wars movies, and they used AI in the Fast and Furious movies
Yeah.
to bring back people.
Even
And
CGI and all that. Yeah.
I think it's cool, but then I go to YouTube. I'm a big YouTube person, and I'm like, is that really a song? Is that something the AI did? Because I don't remember seeing that song on a new album or whatever. So it does get kind of confusing at times
Well,
because
it's making the world a lot more complex for sure. I mean, you know, when they can make these deep fake videos and stuff, so I mean,
oh yeah.
humans always take technology and they do good with it, but they also do some weird, strange, and sometimes bad things with it too. So, there's a fine line between it all. It's just a tool. I use that as a tool occasionally. If I want to make a logo, then I type in
Mhm.
some ideas. It's not you're using your brain. Like if you're in Photoshop, same thing. You're using your brain to come up with some stuff, and then I'll go in and customize stuff. So I'm not just using it as it is. I'll still go in. That'll kind of give me a rough draft of what I want to do. Then I'll bring something to Photoshop and work with it a little bit more and fix it up or something like that. But
What's
something
the
like that.
point? I work for a record label called Fire Rock Music Group. I'm the A&R guy.
Excellent.
And when the band's coming out, Jupiter Night, their whole cover was done with AI. They just like threw it in the system, and that's what came out, which came out really cool. I mean, it's a knight on a horse, and I mean, it's really nice. And Jupiter in the background, and it's really neat how, you know, what they came up with. You know, me, I'm not technically inclined, so, you know, I couldn't put mouse and cat in something or something come up, you know. So,
Totally.
but anyway,
in terms of music too, because I am a producer, I write and record music here at my house, and I work with a lot of people. You know, you can, you know, there's some cool AI programs where you can take out, you actually export an actual voice, like say like it's my voice, and then you can put it into an AI program, and it will, you know, churn out some different versions of my voice or make it sound different ways, and you can use those to enhance your track. Like I mean, look, I understand people going, hey, so and so's not alive, let's make something that sounds like their voice and make a song. That's interesting because humans always, you know, we're nostalgic, you know, so, you know, we're like, if someone's passed away and we can make some new music with their voice, that's interesting. Humans are interested in that kind of thing. But for me, in the production side of things, you know, like I was saying, I'll take out my voice, you know, export a copy of that, put it in an AI program. It'll add some different characteristics to it, and then I can add it back in and use it as a support track. So that's interesting. So to me, that's kind of like using a compressor or an EQ or, you know, a flanger or chorus, whatever. You know, that's enhancing the voice and not just covering the voice, or, you know, for myself personally. And you have to excuse me. Yesterday was my birthday, so I'm still getting a bunch of messages come in. So
it's okay. Well, happy birthday, man. I noticed you're, think you're the same age I am, actually.
Yeah, 54.
Well, I'm 53, so you're one year ahead of me.
But when's your birthday?
February 25th.
Okay, cool. So you're born in 70. I was born in 71.
72. I was born in 72.
Oh, 72. Sorry. Yeah. Had to go the other way.
So anyway, so let's go back to the beginning with you, okay? Tell me when the first time was that you picked up a guitar and started playing.
Well, you know, first of all, I was around music all my life. My biological father, his name was Waylon Black. He passed away in 2008, unfortunately. No, 2006, I'm sorry, unfortunately. And, you know, he was a blues guitar player. So I grew up around him playing guitar. And then my mom was married 3 times. My first stepfather was a keyboardist, and then my third stepfather was a guitar player. So my mom's still with him now. His name's Papa Joe DeMeo. So he used to sit around and play acoustic guitar all the time. And at age 10, one day, I just said, hey, can you show me something? I saw the guitar sitting there, said, you know, and can you show me something? I was 10. So he picked up the guitar and played this blues riff, dun, 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 you know, and then he moved it down into some different strings, and he handed me the guitar, and I just started playing it right away.
Wow.
And he was like, wow, you know, exactly. He said the same thing. He was like, wow, you got a natural, you know, feel for it. You can play it that quick. And then really I never stopped from there. I mean, I became intrigued, obsessively intrigued with it at that point, and just played every day.
I mean, what bands and what music was it that made you want to be that guitar player playing on a stage, you know?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because in the beginning I was just playing guitar for guitar's sake. I just liked the way it sounded. My stepfather was always playing. He taught me a couple of things, a couple of chords and some of this stuff. And then I took it on to, I started experimenting very quickly. I wrote some of my own songs within a couple of weeks. And I was really just playing it for guitar's sake, for music's sake. At the time, you know, there was stuff on the radio like Foreigner and Jay Giles and, you know, I mean, Eddie Rabbitt. I remember my stepfather used to play that song Step by Step by Eddie Rabbitt.
Yeah,
he was a singer-songwriter, my stepfather. He had written a bunch of songs about our family and stuff like that, and wrote a song about my mom. So I learned these 4 chord songs, and then as I went to my teenage years, say I was about 12 or something like that, I was hanging out with some friends, and we started listening to some rock and metal. They had a Walkman tape player, and they said, "Hey, check this out." Of course, yeah, we were, teenagers experimenting. So I smoked some weed at age 12, yes,
Yeah.
with some friends, and they said, "Hey, listen to this." And I put on the headphones and I hit play, and I love telling the story because it's all.
Oh yeah.
And of course, I just smoked some weed, and I was just, having played guitar now for a couple of years, I was like, "Oh my God, that's what you can do!" I mean, it just blew me away. Then I got into Deep Purple and Quiet Riot and Twisted Sister, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Yngwie Malmsteen. All these started coming into the picture. Wasp, and then my first concert at age 13 in 1984 was Black Sabbath with Quiet Riot opening. Black Sabbath on their Born Again tour, Quiet Riot
Oh yeah.
Mental Health tour, and that was on MTV, which I watched a lot, and so that's really where the two things went. Okay, I saw that and I said that's what I want to do.
I couldn't have lived without the Headbangers Ball. I mean, that was
Oh yeah,
to me the greatest thing growing up was that show. Adam Curry, and then Ricky Rackman later on, was the host of the Headbangers Ball, and you see,
right.
and that's how we were introduced to music, like Alice in Chains, nobody knew, Guns N' Roses. I mean, all these people come on Headbangers Ball. I feel like today kids don't get that great, you know, immersement because it's like 3 hours of metal, and it was like everything from Anthrax to Megadeth to Pretty Boy Floyd to Bulletboys to you name it. I mean,
Yeah.
it was everything encompassing metal.
Yeah, well,
And
back then, I mean, we had a limited resource of entertainment. Our video games were at a certain level.
uh-huh.
TV was at a certain level. You couldn't just, you had cable channels and stuff like that, so you could watch movies when they were playing. You had to follow the schedule.
Yeah,
Headbangers Ball
exactly.
came on Saturday night. You had to be there to watch it, unless you had a VCR and you could record it, stuff like
Yeah,
that. But so we really had to, focus our schedule around what was going on in the entertainment world. Now you have YouTube, you have the Fire Stick, you can watch whatever movie you want, whenever you
anything.
want to. You can go online and watch it. You can go to YouTube and watch videos. I mean, I think there's something about that, even with the phones, right? I mean, you could call somebody, and if they weren't home, you missed them. You couldn't
Yeah,
text them. You could maybe leave a message. Some people had answer machines, but it was a lot harder than. And what's cool about us growing up in that time is that I think we have more respect for the way it is now. A lot of the kids just expect it. This is the way it is nowadays, so they're just a lot, not as
yeah.
appreciative, and it is what it is. It's not their fault, but so that's
As
why
I was
we enjoy these
growing
things. We respect that and love that when we could just turn something on, like, wow, remember how it used to be?
you know, I remember, growing up with a stepfather. I didn't care for the guy that much, but the one thing that he taught me was music. You know, Before him, I just knew who Motley Crue and the basic bands. I mean, he introduced me to Led Zeppelin and to Ziggy Stardust. I'm sorry. The Beatles. He introduced me to all that stuff,
Oh yeah,
and really, until I got older, really didn't appreciate that kind of music. And my son is the same way. Like he hated the Beatles when he was a kid, but now he loves them. It's weird as we grow, how our music changes. Like one of his favorite bands is Guns N' Roses. I remember sitting and watching MTV to the Ridge concert with Guns N' Roses, going, "Oh my God, this is mind blowing. Who
yeah.
are these guys? Where did these guys come from?" And I hate that for people or kids today because we'd sit outside for 2 days waiting to pick up a brand new cassette tape, like GNR.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a different time. But as that in that time period, do you remember the first time that you ever performed live in a band?
Myself?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I my first performance. I mean, I always call this my first performance playing
Yeah.
at the Lake County Fairgrounds when I was 17 with my original band Arcane, Arcane. That was the name of the band, with Steven and Russell Pullman and Dan Petrie on vocals, and Scott Wolf was on rhythm guitar as well. And the funny thing though is that really we had a show the weekend before, and that was our warm up show, and it was at the Lake County Youth Center. So there was no stage. We just played on the ground and all that. So it's not as exciting, but very cool. But I always call that other performance my first performance. It just sounds more exciting, I think. But
Yeah.
and that one I have more memories about because we played. It's a town of 5,000 or 10,000 people. I don't remember. So it's a very, very small town. I went to high school in Northern California called Lakeport on Clear Lake. It's the big lake up in Northern California. And the fair happens every year, summertime. So everyone in town is there, all the people I go to school with. So for me, it was a really cool experience because, I would walk around town and kind of people, I was starting to grow my hair long. The cops used to mess with me. And, maybe people didn't have the best opinion of me for no reason. I wasn't up to anything bad. It was just, they just, kind of judged people there with long hair, and I was, very rare long-haired guy. And after I played that show, it changed people's opinion. Like, wow, everyone saw me play. Oh my God, this guy's a rock star. And, we opened for Tommy Two Tone was the headliner at the
Oh my goodness.
at the fairground. So yeah, it was cool. Cool memory.
So as you grew older and things like that, what was the very first professional band you were in?
I played in a handful of bands. On my 18th birthday, I moved to Sacramento, and I played in a band called Rexon, and then a handful of other bands. Played in a band called Guitarist, and then I got the offer to join the band Heathen. So I joined them in
Yeah.
the end of '91 or the beginning of '92, and I moved to San Francisco on a 24-hour decision. So they're like, hey, we want you to join the band. I said, let me think about it. I thought about it overnight. And then they got me a Greyhound bus ticket, and I took the Greyhound from Sacramento to San Francisco and never looked back. I moved right to San Francisco, and I moved in with Lee Altus and his family. They're from Russia. And Lee's in Exodus now. Lee Altus?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
so
understand.
I moved in with him and his family for about approximately 6 months or something. And I turned 21 while I was living there with them. So I had my 21st birthday. And yeah, so I joined them when I was 20. That was my first, the band was signed to Roadrunner Records at the time. And we played a bunch of shows. My first show with them was at the Stone in San Francisco, the famous Stone there on Broadway.
Heathen's actually playing again now, aren't they?
Yep. They're out playing. I actually played a few shows with them when I was playing with Violence. Couple different places. We played a show in Brazil together, I think it was, or Argentina. I'm trying to remember. And then we played a show in Mexico together. So it was cool, hanging. Of course, the only original member was the singer Dave, but I met the other guys and they were all cool and stuff. So
it's odd you say Violence, because Violence, I seen a flyer on Facebook for Violence, and there was this band called NZM that opened up for them in Florida. And I don't know if you know who NZM is, but that's Nick Z. Marino. He's the singer and keyboardist for Yngwie. And a year after seeing that flyer, he put out an album on Fire Rock Music Group that went through me. And Nick is the singer and keyboardist for Ingve to this day.
Oh,
So
cool. Yep. I'm familiar.
so that just brought back a memory about violence. I'm like, you find people in the most mysterious places, when you're looking for stuff. Um, so you went on, you played Lizzy Borden, and tell us a little bit more about some of the other bands that you are known for playing with.
Well, see, I went on to play with Vicious Rumors after Heathen. And that was really cool because I played, I think, in 6 or 7 bands that had played shows or opened up for Vicious Rumors over the years. And I went and saw them when I was 16. And I saw them early on when I was a teenager. I had a couple of their records. I was a fan. So that was cool joining them. And then Heathen got asked to play the Thrash to the Titans show, the benefit for Chuck Billy in the Bay Area. So we reformed to do that. So then I was playing with Vicious Rumors and Heathen at the same time.
Wow.
And we both got offered to play the Dokken Festival in 2003, I think it was. No, 2002. So I played Dokken twice in one day with 2 bands, Vicious Rumors and Heathen, the big festival there in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it didn't work out for very long. I kind of had to choose, and Vicious Rumors was the band I was really in at that time. Heathen just reformed to do that, and so I just ended up bowing out of Heathen and then staying with Vicious Rumors. And then I ended up playing with Chris Caffrey from Sabotage and his solo bands with Jeff Plate and Nick Douglas and Paul on keyboards and guitar, third guitar. And then let's see, then I went on to play with Metal Church. After that, there's a few other bands there. I played Doppler Incorporated. That was an instrumental band with Doug Doppler and Otma Noor and Uriah Duffy. And then after doing a bunch of touring with Metal Church in the States, I decided to move from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And I was just filling in for Metal Church for the year of 2005. So basically, at the end of touring, I went to Los Angeles to do an album with Paul Shortino and Patrick Johansson on drums from Ingve's band. And we have different bass players play on that project. And I ended up moving to LA. And a few weeks after moving to LA, I got the opportunity to audition for Lizzy Borden. So I did that, and I got the gig with Lizzy. I did that for a few years, played on their Appointment with Death record, and did a bunch of touring with them, in Europe and all the festivals in the States and all that kind of stuff. And then I went on to play in a band called Where Angels Suffer. That was with Chris Holmes and Stat Hallen on drums, and Steve Unger from Metal Church on bass. And we had Rich Lewis singing as well, and from Randy Piper's Animal Band. Rich is a great singer, great guy. And then we did a European tour and some festivals on that. And then I ended up moving on to play with Attica 7. Okay, that's with Evan Seinfeld and Rusty Coons and Tommy Holt.
I've never heard of that band before.
Yeah, we end up getting the Rockstar Mayhem tour, Mayhem Rockstar tour, 2013, touring with who was it? Rob Zombie, Five Finger Death Punch, Mastodon, Amon Amarth. There's a bunch of bands. Behemoth had canceled last minute, and our manager was the promoter, John Reese, the promoter of the Mayhem tour. So I had just joined a band. I was in the band for less than a month, probably, I think, or something like that. And then we got that last minute offer, which was probably about 2 weeks away once we got the offer. And we just hit the road doing this big outdoor festival, U.S. outdoor festival tour. So that was really cool. You got to hang with a lot of people. Of course, Machine Head was on it, Children of Bodom, Butcher Babies, and these are all people that I either knew previously or also, got to know later on. So that was a great tour. And then Lizzy Borden reactivated, and I ended up doing the 2014 world tour with them for their 30th anniversary we went all over the place. We did Europe, South America, Asia, the U.S. Yeah, so
Was
there's
that with
that.
Dario? Was Dario in the band then or not?
No. Dario replaced me originally, and then
Okay.
he joined Black Label Society, and then I joined for the 30th anniversary tour. So
Okay, cool. Yeah,
he
because I remember
replaced me originally, and then I replaced him.
I remember Dario when we did Rocklahoma. He was in a band called Carnival, and
Yeah.
that's where Dario it came from.
Oh,
Out of
very
that,
cool.
and then he was in Lizzy Borden for a minute, and then now he's been in Black Label for years.
Yeah.
So would you consider yourself probably a hired gun, pretty much, as far as that goes, when it comes to guitars?
Yeah, well, it varies, you know. I mean, music is my life, you know. I mean,
Mhm.
we've established that for sure. Um, you know, I don't run around calling myself a hired gun, you know. I mean, when I join a band or I get together with some guys, I'm going to do a tour and I play with them, you know. I mean, I kind of look at it like this in a funny sense. Let's look at it, say, you know, if, you know, I always use funny analogies. Let's say you have
Mhm.
a hooker, right? And she's like, okay, doing her job, you know, but it's like she cares about this person, you know, is she putting care into it or just doing it as a job? I guess that's my, did I just make myself look like a hooker? I don't know. But
I guess that's a great analogy,
yeah,
man.
it's a great analogy. You know, it's hard to explain, but, you know, it's like a lot of times I join bands, and then other times, you know, I'm hired to fill in. But when I fill in, you know, I'm a heartfelt person, and I'm always going to be, you know, really into it. You know, like I don't, I'm not the type of person who just goes business, business, business. You know, it's like, yeah, I always feel like hired gun kind of feels like that. Like, okay, I'm a hired gun. You know, it's like I've never used those words really so much. Like I played in Dokken for a while, and I was just filling in. I called it a fill in. You know, I guess you can say I was a hired gun, but you know, Don's a friend of mine, and when we did it, you know, it was very symbiotic. And it was a great connection and stuff. You know, so you know,
It's
it
it's
depends on the
amazing.
circumstance, I guess.
It's amazing that you're only 1 year older than me, and all this stuff that you've done through your life. And I remember a lot of these bands, that were going on in those time periods. It's what I want to get to what's happened now in a minute, but I don't want to get there yet. So, out of all the bands you played with, what was probably your favorite project to do?
Oh yeah, that's a great question because I have done so much over the years, you know, and I mean, for me, you know, growing up as a fan of music, when I've gotten to play with some people that I really liked growing up, you know, I mean, I'll start with Dokken because, you know, I mean, guitar wise, especially, you know, being a George Lynch fan growing up with Dokken, you know, I love Dokken songs. I like their music, their songwriting, the guitar playing. So, you know, that really brings me back to my early days of, you know, I probably heard Dokken when I was 13 or 14. Started listening to him early on, tooth and nail, and you know, getting to play that music and do it with Don, that was a big deal for me for sure. Playing with Metal Church was another one. I grew up listening to them. Vicious Rumors, that was another one. You know, it's really an honor, and you know, I was excited to do it. It was a kind of a pinch me moment, you know, where you're like, man, I can't believe I get to do this. But once one happened, then another one happened. Lizzy Borden was another one. I was listening to them early on in the early '80s, and you know, so it's like, okay, now I'm on a roll here. I'm like, okay, this is something, you know, people
Yeah.
need musicians out there sometimes, guitar players, and I started to see a pattern. I see, hey, there's an opportunity to play with these bands because sometimes they need a guitar player, and I play guitar. So, you know, I
What do you
probably
think?
put Dokken would be number one on the list just because that was a big deal for me. You know, it was a high accomplishment to be able to play that stuff at that level too. You know, so.
Well, what do you think when fans say it's not the real band? For instance, like Foreigner, Leonard Skinner, Dokken only has Don, Wasp only has Blackie. Bulletboys only has Mark. You know, what do you? I mean, you played in some of these bands like that before in your past. What do you think when fans say that? Do you see that very much, or?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's a big thing out there, and especially nowadays with the keyboard warriors out on the
Really?
internet, you know, because people can really put their opinions out there now. And that's exactly what they're their opinions, and they matter to a certain degree because they're fans, and I always respect that, you know. It's funny though when you watch a band's behind the music or their story.
Uh-huh.
You know, a lot of times you see that bands had tumultuous lineup changes before they had the famous lineup.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you know, so, you know, the music business is not easy. You know, humans aren't easy. The psychology of being human and people's interactions, their relationships.
I'm a Sunday morning sinner in a white church, on my knees praying till it hurts in the back row with all the other lost souls. I'm a double shot of whiskey in a dive bar, a cowboy looking for a wild card I can take home. For the sun I'm long gone.